Part 1. You will hear a conversation between two colleagues, planning a team outing. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. Now listen and answer questions 1 to 4.
So, Mark, how many colleagues have confirmed they'll attend the team outing?
Well, Rita, we've got 38 confirmed and another 12 who said they'd probably come.
Shall we count on 55 then?
I think that's safe. And the date we decided on is...
The 20th. That's the third Saturday in July.
Perfect. Fingers crossed for clear skies.
Hopefully. Now, we need to choose where to get the catering from and what kind of food we'd like.
Right. What's the spending limit?
We agreed on $12 per person for food and $4 each for beverages.
Got it. I picked up a few brochures from local caterers. What do you think?
The key thing is making sure there's enough variety. We don't want anyone saying they couldn't find anything they liked.
Also, let's skip anything that won't survive the heat, like frozen desserts and such.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 5 to 10.
Now, you've looked at the brochures. What do you think?
Well, I thought the lunch spot seemed promising. The prices are nearly perfect for our limit, and they offer a good mix.
I'm not so sure. Someone I know used them for a corporate gathering and wasn't that happy.
Oh, what did they say?
The food was all right, but not as diverse as they had hoped, and the drinks included some wine, which didn't go over very well.
Then maybe we should look into this one. Metro meals?
A little expensive, but I've heard they're excellent.
Let me check. Yeah, $14 per person just for food. That's above what we planned. Think we could get a price cut?
Let's see. It says they offer a 15% discount for bookings of over 35 people. Would that help?
15% off 14. Still slightly over budget.
Hey, take a look at this one, Picnic Delights.
It's a startup. I asked around, but no one really knows them.
Let's see, $10 a person for meals and $4 for drinks. That's within our limit. Says they specialize in chilled platters for outdoor events. That should be fine. And they include vegetarian dishes. We do have a few vegetarians coming.
Sounds promising. My only concern is their inexperience. Bit of a gamble.
True. If the food isn't great, we'll look unprofessional.
Wait, it says they invite clients to their kitchen to sample some menu items.
Free tasting? Let's schedule a visit.
Sure, what day?
Not tomorrow. We've got that workshop. How about Friday?
Sounds good. What time?
Let's say 10:30?
All right, what's their number?
39487216.
We should also ask if they deliver directly to the venue.
Yes, it's just outside the town center, but not too far. Do they charge for delivery?
Doesn't mention it, but most of the other caterers include it.
That is the end of Part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 1. Part 2. You will hear a speaker giving information about legal matters that international students might face while studying in a foreign country. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is George Alexander, and I'm here to give you some guidance on legal issues that may affect you while you're studying here at this institution. Thankfully, most overseas students complete their degrees without encountering serious legal problems. However, if you do get involved in any kind of legal trouble, it's important to seek assistance. You have a couple of choices. First, reach out to the campus support team or student advisor. Even if they can't directly assist, they'll guide you to the right people. Another useful resource is the Community Help Center nearby. You'll find a number in the regional phone book. They can recommend a lawyer if necessary, or tell you whether there's a legal aid office offering free services. They can also let you know if you're eligible for financial support to cover legal or court expenses. Now, let me give you a few essential facts about law enforcement. Police officers have the authority to stop and question anyone they believe is acting suspiciously. If you are detained for any reason, even when you believe to be unjust, keep these key points in mind. First, do not become hostile. Second, never attempt to offer money or favors to the officer. Third, if you're approached by officers not in uniform, you are entitled to ask for identification. Fourth, always give your correct name and address if asked. Giving false details is considered a criminal act. Fifth, don't sign anything until you've spoken to a qualified lawyer. Every station has a solicitor available on call. Sixth, you're allowed to make one phone call. If you choose to call a friend, ask them to get in touch with someone from your school or from the student support group to get advice on your next steps.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Now, if you end up in police custody, getting expert advice is crucial. You should contact any of the following: your school's student affairs officer, the support group on campus, the local community help center, or a nearby free law office. Being convicted of an offense could negatively affect your academic status as an international student, so don't delay. Ask for help early. And please always respect the local laws. Rules here may be very different than those in your home country. Here are a few examples of what's considered illegal here. You are not allowed to carry harmful tools such as bleeds, firearms, or personal defense sprays. Even women are not permitted to carry sprays or other items for protection. However, personal safety alarms are permitted. You must also not use or distribute any illegal substances. Causing public disturbance is also against the law. That includes being excessively noisy or rowdy in public places. Let's move on to the topic of alcohol. Here, it's completely normal for adults to consume alcohol in moderation. For many, it's a social activity. Grabbing a drink is a common way to relax or spend time with others.
If you're invited to a gathering or party, your host may offer you something to drink. At universities, social events, particularly for undergraduates, often take place in bars or clubs. But remember, you're never required to drink if you don't want to. Even at a party or bar, you can always request a soft drink. If you're uncomfortable being in places where alcohol is served, let your friends know. There are plenty of other places to hang out. If you do choose to drink, never operate a vehicle afterward. It's extremely dangerous and there are severe legal consequences. Public intoxication is also prohibited, and the police can detain you for it. Both drugs and alcohol can lead to serious issues. Let me remind you again, drug use is against the law here, unless prescribed by a doctor. But if you're struggling with illegal substance use, there are support services you can talk to. Get in touch with your student support group or counseling office. If you're over 18, you are legally allowed to purchase and drink alcohol. But if you feel your consumption is excessive, talk to your counselor or healthcare provider. There are many helpful organizations that offer support with alcohol and drug dependency. Please don't hesitate to contact them.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 2. Part 3. You will hear a group of students discussing tips for giving presentations. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen and answer questions 21 to 25.
Right, team. Let's go over the advice we've gathered for giving effective talks at next week's conference. Priya?
Sure. My first suggestion is to arrive ahead of time. Experienced speakers often say that showing up early can lead to unexpected benefits. I'm not totally convinced by that.
Well, at least you might catch any tech issues before they derail you. Plus, as people wander in, you get the chance to mingle a bit. Great opportunity to connect before jumping into your topic.
True. Felix had some good input on how to start strong.
Yes, I'd say kick things off with impact. I noted a few ideas for opening your presentation. First, don't apologize. Even if you're feeling unsure, keep it hidden and just go for it. Most people are too caught up in their own thoughts to notice any nerves.
That's definitely reassuring.
Begin with these 3 core questions. What's the challenge? Why should we care? And how do you propose a fix?
Brilliant structure. Liam, you've been quiet.
My next tip is what I call LGL, local, global, local. With each point, start with the specific case, zoom out to the bigger picture, and then return to something relatable. It helps lock in the message. It is a good way to draw attention and promote retention.
I've got another. This is less of a tip and more of a golden rule. Give everyone a handout. A single sheet summarizing your main points can be super helpful. People refer back to it later or pass it on to someone else.
I like that. The next tip that I have is know your audience. It's basic advice, but still powerful. Try to learn what kind of communication style your audience is used to. Match that, and your ideas will come across clearer.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
Great point. We mentioned possible technical problems before. My next point is that maybe speakers should rethink the overhead projector. Is one really necessary?
I think that often it is, but I agree with your basic point. But don't use tools just because they're available. Think carefully about what's on the screen.
Exactly. Don't overload your slides or leave them too bare. Balance is key.
Good insights, both of you. Another thing, treat your audience with respect. Don't water down your message unnecessarily. Assume intelligence and give the full picture as you see it.
That reminds me, humor is valuable, but be thoughtful about how you use it. Humor should enhance your points, not distract. If it's a joke that could be used in any context, cut it.
I agree, Priya, and avoid jokes that target a particular group. If someone's going to disagree with you, let it be over your ideas, not your jokes.
Also, steer clear of gendered language as a norm. Saying he or she all the time can be off-putting. Use they instead. It's already accepted as a neutral singular term in many dictionaries.
Thanks, Felix. Now thinking about the wrap-up, how you handle questions is key. Audiences often judge your whole talk by how you respond in the last minute. Allow pauses. Even 10 seconds can feel long to you, but it's natural from their side.
And believe in your topic. Conviction boosts confidence. When you care deeply, it shows and makes others care too.
One final trick. End slightly early. It almost always leaves a good impression. Even just freeing up 5 minutes for people will make them appreciate your talk.
And here's what I think is most important practice. Go over your talk again and again. Record yourself. Watch the playback and study it. You'll spot so many odd habits, facial expressions, distracting hand movements. Play it with no audio. Why are your shoulders moving like that? Then listen with no video. Hear your ums and pauses. Try it at double speed too. It highlights your pacing flaws.
Excellent tips, Liam. Here's my last one. Stay hydrated. Believe it or not, giving a talk and flying are two of the most dehydrating things we do. Keep water nearby, and if you can, skip alcohol the night before. Take care of your voice and body.
Perfect. Now we've got all the ideas. We just need to organize them.
That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 3. Part 4. You will hear a talk giving an overview of the Celtic people and their historical background. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 37. Now listen and answer questions 31 to 37.
Welcome to this introductory talk about the Celts. So, who exactly were the Celts? They were a branch of the Indo-European peoples, meaning their language roots were related to those of the Greeks, Germanic tribes, certain Italic groups, and populations from the Indian subcontinent. The Celts originated in Central Europe at the start of the first millennium BC, and were known for using iron tools and domesticating horses. By the end of that millennium, their cultural presence had expanded along the Danube and Rhine rivers, reaching regions like Gaul, Ireland, and Britain, as well as across Central Europe into areas such as northern Spain and northern Italy. Their movement across the continent even led some Celtic groups to attack Rome in 390 BC, planting a long-lasting fear of northern invaders in the minds of the Romans. Archaeologists recognize the Celts mainly through findings at two significant sites, Hallstatt and La Tannée. Hallstatt represents an earlier phase in Celtic culture. The Viennese Academy of Sciences began digging there in 1876 to find out more about an old salt mine, and was the first place where prehistoric Celtic culture was classified. In 1858, a drop in water level at Lake Neuchâtel, Switzerland, revealed a large ancient remains with a remarkable number of preserved items. The nearby town of Latane gave its name to the later phase of Celtic cultural history. Keep in mind, though, these two cultural stages overlap in time and are identified largely based on geography. Let's begin by exploring the Hallstatt period. The Hallstatt culture is divided into 4 periods. Periods A and B occurred in the late Bronze Age, roughly between 1200 and 700 BC. Period C belonged to the early Iron Age, 700 to 600 BC, while period D dates from around 600 to 475 BC. This culture spread throughout Central Europe, especially around what is now Hallstatt in Austria. It was made up of 2 cultural regions, Eastern and Western. Even in the earliest stages, long-distance trade in copper and tin needed to make bronze was well underway. By around 700 BC, the trade of iron also became significant. The Hallstatt region dominated salt trade too, which was essential at the time for food preservation. Their control of both salt and iron helped them gain wealth and influence. From 800 BC, the graves of wealthy individuals in Central Europe revealed items like iron swords and wheeled carts. Hallstatt C saw the construction of fortified hilltop settlements to the north of the Alps. These areas featured burial mounds with valuable objects, including imported luxury goods and chariots. In the later Hallstatt D phase, these grand burial mounds became more concentrated near key hill forts in the southwestern region. This points to growing wealth and social hierarchy, likely influenced by the development of Massalia, modern-day Marseille, as a Greek trading hub. The increase in luxury trading helped generate greater profits and promoted the rise of an elite class.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 38 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 38 to 40.
Between 1846 and 1863, archaeologists discovered about 1,000 graves at Hallstatt, containing an extraordinary variety of items like clothing, salt mining gear, jewelry, weapons, pottery, imported bronze vessels found in the graves of tribal leaders. The Latane period marks the age of Celtic expansion, migration, and the origins of Celtic mythology. The culture gets its name from the Latane site in Switzerland, where remains were first found. The Latane Celts were known to the Romans as the gods. They originally lived in the region stretching from eastern France to Bohemia, but from about 400 BC, their influence spread quickly. The Latane Celts reached Spain by 450 BC, moved into northern Italy by 400 BC, attacked Rome in 390 BC, invaded Greece in 279 BC, and entered Galatia, which is now part of Turkey, by 270 BC. By the year 200 BC, they had established themselves in what are now Britain, Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Brittany. There's still debate among scholars about whether their spread into Britain happened mainly through military invasion or if it was more about cultural sharing through trade, along with shared ancestry and language among tribes. Actual evidence of migration into Britain by Latine people is limited. Still, it appears that the Latine culture was more combat-focused than the Helset period. Latine graves across Europe include iron weapons, such as swords and spearheads, as well as wooden shields and everyday objects like razors, cauldrons, jewelry, and farming tools like yokes.
That is the end of part 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 4.